Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hey, Queen. Hey, Thomas. Hey, Joe Bye. I'm going to let some of you come in. And hey, Thomas. I heard your feelings. I won't call you. Oh, okay. I don't know how I heard your feelings. Oh, I think I do. Thomas, stop. Just stop. Um, hey, Miss Felicia. So, how's everybody doing? Welcome in. Welcome in. Hey, Mama Shirley. Hey, I need Mama Shirley. After this live, if I just in case, because I'll probably forget, because you know how I am. I need you to call me. I was supposed to call you. I need to relay a message. So call me if you're up. Call me after live. Hey, Siege. How you doing, sis? You working but listening? I appreciate it, sis. Yes, this is going to be a good live, y'all. Hey, Rick Ross. Hey, Super Dream. Gunrilla, how you doing, Gunrilla Rick? How's everybody doing? If y'all don't mind sharing out the live, because I don't want nobody to miss this. So if you don't mind, please share it out. Because this is gonna be a good one. This will be a good one. And y'all, I will be bringing the guest up shortly. Hey, Major Havoc, how you doing? Hey, fam, how you doing? Yes. So she will be coming up shortly. She is here, y'all. So don't think she ain't. She waiting. She is here. So, and I saw Queen had a question right off the rip, and I appreciate it. I tried to set up a, I don't know if that's even a thing. I think I've seen it though on people's lives where they had a text box, and I couldn't figure it out. So, and if I did, because I did something, but I don't know if that was what I did, then it worked out, right? Because I don't know. Oh, Thomas, you really in your feelings. You ain't even said nothing else to me since earlier. Okay. We'll be up and we'll call. Okay. Hey, TT. I'm driving, but listen, I appreciate you. All right, y'all. I am going to go ahead and bring in our guest. I hope y'all shared it out though. I don't typically go live on a Tuesday, so I don't know how YouTube pushed out the notification. Let me share it myself. How about that? I don't know how well YouTube pushes it out. Uh-oh, that's a problem. Let's turn that off. Um, the text box is there. Thank you, TT. That's why it's going off. Let me create a post. Um, because with me not usually going live on a Tuesday, I don't know how well they do all that. All right, it's good. Thank you. I can't see it on my side, so maybe I got to keep my YouTube window thing open because I don't see the text box over here. So maybe it's on the YouTube side because I created it on the YouTube side. All right, y'all. So I am. I'll read your sissies in the chat. I am going to bring up our guest. Uh oh, why my things start talking on the phone? Anyway, so I have the Tennessee Goddess in here today to have a two-way conversation. On here, I've been reached out by a lot of ladies in the community who had questions, and y'all, I am still fairly new, so I'd rather have someone a little bit more seasoned, give some information that might be helpful and be able to answer some questions possibly for you guys. Okay, so I am going to bring her up. Hey,
Hi,
sis.
how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Wonderful. Just got finished working
I know. Look,
on my t-shirts
take
that I'm
one.
looking for.
Listen, take off one hat, put on another. Hey, Carbon.
Exactly.
That's how it be. Listen, I understand. Hey, OG Tank. We still got people coming in, which I appreciate. I went ahead and shared it so that if the algorithm didn't pick it up,
Okay.
um,
I
you know
shared
how
it with
you.
my family in North Dakota.
Awesome. Hey,
So
Irvin.
one nephew said, I think I might be able to join. And I was like, oh, I hope you do.
Oh, so let me see. I can't see. Can you see the question box? No, maybe.
I can see, I'm looking at I can see the comments.
They're telling me it's there. I don't see it.
Yeah, I can see the comments where I can
I can
join the
see the
chat.
comments. Yeah, I can see the comments, but I can't. I created what I thought was a question box so that we would miss questions. I'm not gonna worry
Okay.
about it. I'm just gonna hope that I see things as they flow through the chat.
Well, I have
So,
streaming on my TV so I can catch some of the questions too. And then I have my
mhm,
phone. Um,
oh,
but for some reason, the TV keeps freezing. So there's that.
there's that. I have
Yeah.
my phone too, so and usually the question
Oh,
box
I
is there.
can't
I
see it.
know, but I can't see it, fam.
I can
Because
see it.
you can on the
I can
YouTube
from my
side,
phone. From my phone.
and I still
Can
can't.
you see
Is
it?
it
I'm showing it on my phone here so you can see it.
yes, maybe it's because it's me. I can't, which would make sense that I could see it. I'm about to try this. Look, I have more than one way to log into this person, right?
Okay. As my grandma would say, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
That part, switch accounts. How about that? And maybe it'll let me do it from another account. Be able to see it. There we go. Okay. There we go. It wouldn't let me see it. I'm a master. I can see it. But I
And
can see it from a different account. That's so
huh,
crazy.
that's weird. But
And it's so crazy.
I don't know if somebody could ask a question and if they can see it because I, of course, can't see any of the questions yet.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in there either. Can somebody put something just in there just so I know it's working? Hey, the new urban gardener.
2A in
Uh,
LA said that he can see the question mark, the
oh,
box.
so the PT says she put something in there, but she doesn't see where it went. So maybe I didn't do something right. I don't know, y'all.
Let me.
Anyway, I'm not gonna worry about it. We're gonna move on. So can
Okay.
you share with the audience who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am Tennessee Goddess. I am a firearms instructor certified with both the NRA and USCCA. I'm a range safety officer and a refuse to be a victim instructor as well. I'm currently working on my rifle certification and I'm kind of on the fence right now with the defensive pistol because they've raised the price on it. It is so expensive.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, I should probably do a GoFundMe for that. So,
And should.
yes. So I've been teaching firearms probably for about 6.5 years.
Hmm.
Oh, going into my 7th year actually in next month, 7 years. But I
Awesome.
have been shooting for probably as a recreational hobby for 10 years. And prior to that, I was a firearm owner, but never owned bullets.
We're
Just
gonna talk
thought,
about that.
yeah,
We
just
can
thought I
talk
could
about
just have that with me because I traveled the United States for my full time job and wanted to have some kind of protection, had no clue about any laws or anything. So I was just like, hey, here it is,
that.
and I have a temper occasionally. So I thought it best that I probably not have that. So I sold my gun. And
Hmm.
once I sold it, I was like, I don't need another one. And then I moved to a house. And I'm not used to living in a house. I had apartment living.
Hmm.
And my first night here in my house, I opened my front door and there was a man on my front porch.
Wow.
And that scared me. But for some reason or another, the people that lived in my house before me had a bat that was by the door. And I just reached back and got it and started swinging because I live on top of a hill. And if you're
Mm.
coming up this far up this hill, you're not for good.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing he said when I opened the door was, where do you think you're going? And fear took over. And when my fear, I'm silent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a little squeak. And then it just comes pure anger. And I just started swinging. I knocked him off my porch. And I was like, you're not up here for any reason. And my neighbor heard him, and he comes out and he was like, what are you doing? And the guy was like, I'm with AT&T. I'm with AT&T. And I'm like, no, it's 9 o'clock at night. It's pitch black up here. AT&T does not come out like this, you know? And so my neighbor ran him off, and I was like, I need to be able to protect myself other than just a bat, because he could have taken that bat away from me and beat me with it, could have killed me with it, you know? And I'm always been along the lines of, it's either them or me. And I'm going to be pro Tennessee Goddess.
Yep.
You know, and I also suffer from post-traumatic stress from my best friend being murdered, and the murderer calling me after he had murdered her. And so that was another large part of me trying to figure out, how am I going to protect myself, because he's not going to be in prison forever.
Yeah.
You know, he's harassed me from prison and so forth. And matter of fact, I think he's getting out pretty soon. So hence the name Tennessee Goddess.
Mm-hmm.
So he does not need to know anything about me. And he was actually one of the reasons I got rid of my firearm the first time.
Yeah.
You know, so did not know he was the bad guy. And he was, you know, that vengeful, spiteful, evil person.
Yeah.
And he was.
Yeah. Sometimes it's somebody close to you more than a stranger.
Yes. You know, speaking with a friend today and explained, she never knew my story, and I explained it to her today, and she was like, I had no idea. I was like, a lot of women have no idea that these people that are coming after them, and they're all sweet and nice, and they everything that we ever dreamed of, but they were also the nightmares that we dreamed of.
Yeah.
You know, so thank goodness I've not been into a relationship where it's been volatile or abusive. I do have friends that have, and of course, lost my friend to that. You know, granted, we were, I guess, a couple of thousand miles away from each other, but he still found a way to reach out to me. You know, and even from jail. You know, when you get a call from jail, usually it's automated saying you have a collect call from, and occasionally you can hear them in the background. So in the background, he was speaking to me, telling me, when I get out of jail, I'm coming to you.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. You know, so I'm like, what are you coming to me for? I'm like, I didn't do anything. You're the one that did what you did. I didn't even get to testify against you. Yes, I turned over their phone calls. But there's no reason for you to come after me. But right now I'm in the mindset of, go for it. I've been training for this day. You know, so
you feel threatened.
No, and I turned it into the jail, of course, and they were like, yeah, that's not going to happen. He did get a couple of years extension for harassment across state lines of some sort. I'm not sure what it was, but I didn't have to do anything. They just asked for the recordings, and I sent them right on over. At that time, it was when voice over IP was very new, and the service that I had, I could hit record and it would record the phone calls. So I was able to get those, and I'm like, okay, great. So, but you know, I'm because of the post-traumatic stress, I have a delayed reaction to things. Mostly it's more for me to react later. The first thing it hits, I'm more reactive or protective, and I go into protect mode, and then I'm just pure anger. And it's like, do it, you know? So like, yeah, which is kind of crazy. And then after the fact, that's when all the emotions and everything come into play. So yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have it the way that it is than what it would be any other way, that I would just break down into a little ball and cry. So, But I do have a ladies group here in Tennessee that I am the co-leader of. There's 3 other ladies that help me, and we help each other, of course. This past weekend, we did a class on sight picture.
Okay.
And we haven't really posted a lot. It's just mostly been word of mouth. But we decided to go to social media and post about it. And for the last 3 months, we've had at least 20 to 25 people come to our class, which is great.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, is there a separate page for that? Because I didn't see that on, I don't think on your.
No, I don't really share it on
Mhm.
any of my social media other than I'll post in our local town groups, and that's it.
Okay.
Because we do have a public page and we get some nut people.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like I think just the other day we had somebody asking about when does the knitting class start?
Mm.
Do you know what 2A is? You know, so we're also known as the 2A Sisterhood. And it started out that we were nationwide, and I think there's probably only 2 other chapters left. So we
Wow.
were with the Well Armed Woman, which is now, I think, Armed Women of America.
Mhm.
And that's how I got started. And after they did some changes, our chapter just kind of fizzled out. There were some changes that made that some of us weren't happy with and weren't okay with them doing certain things. So we just said, no, we're good. And
Mhm.
now we have our little branch over here, and it's not very big. There is also a Girl and a Gun here in Tennessee. Middle
Mhm.
Tennessee is where I'm at, and they do lots of good things too. I've not been a party to their group just yet,
Mhm.
so you know, it is what it is. And for anybody that's looking for firearm training, specifically females, make sure you vet your instructor, because
Mhm.
there are people out here that say that they're an instructor and they don't even know how to hold a gun.
Mhm.
And or they say, well, I go to the range every day. Just because you go to the range still doesn't mean you know how to hold a gun.
Mhm.
You might teach someone to teacup, and that
Mhm.
is holding your firearm by the
Mhm.
grip in the palm of your hand like this and
Mhm.
holding it. And that's not going to do good for you.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I
that's
just got
that's
that
all happening.
recently.
Yes. And of course, new shooters. When I'd never shot a semi-automatic firearm, and I went and bought one, went to the range, and I stood there and I was like, how does this work? Read the instructions. I was like, oh, got up there, loaded my magazine, and pulled the trigger. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, that's not what I was expecting out of this. Casing came back and hit me in the head. So I
Yep.
was like, that's definitely not what I was expecting. Because the previous gun I had was a revolver, and of course, I'd never shot it.
Yeah.
So I'd shot long guns before, and that wasn't a big deal to me. But a pistol was a different ballgame.
Mhm.
So, and I find with some of our ladies that are just learning to shoot, they do not like any of the recoil. None at all. They're just
No.
like none.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it scares them.
I get
And
it.
yeah. So and then we have ladies that their husbands have purchased their firearms for them, and they
Mhm.
have no idea what they have, and
Mhm.
they hate it. You would not believe how many LCP 380s that I've had come through that they bought because it was cute and it was small enough to fit in a purse.
Mhm.
Or my husband said this would be good for me to keep in a pocket.
Mhm.
And how many of them came in and pulled it out of their pocket and it didn't even have a magazine or a bullet in it? I don't know where that little metal thing that goes in here, I don't know where that went to.
That's
Okay.
important.
Yeah. Or for safety purposes, I hid that so my kids wouldn't get it. And then you
Mm.
look over and there are kids in the corner playing with it.
Yep.
And it's like, what is this? You know,
Mhm.
and I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's not the best thing.
Yeah. I had someone ask me, I think a couple weeks ago, what was the best firearm for them particularly. They gave their age and all that stuff. And I'm like, it depends. It's different for every person. There's no perfect one that's for everyone.
That is
It just
correct.
doesn't work like that. And a lot of people aren't. You're right. A lot of I have family members who come to me and like, I want to go to the range with you. One of my cousin bought his girlfriend her first firearm, and I'm like, why did he buy it?
Oh,
I was
he
like,
can buy it. He just can't pick it out.
he picked. That's what I mean. He picked it out.
Yes.
She doesn't know what it. Like you just said, she doesn't know what it is.
Nothing about it.
Never shot it. Nothing. And I'm like, that was not like, you might not even like it.
Yeah.
Well, I get the recoil thing. Like my one that I had the biggest issue with recoil with was my carry, and that's because it's smaller.
Yes.
But I just trained with it, and until I felt comfortable with the recoil and got kind of used to it. You get the more you practice with, the more you get used to it.
You do, and you have what's called muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have several different carries in my rotation,
Mm-hmm.
and I carry something different depending on where I'm going or what I'm wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have one that I don't shoot very often, but as soon as I pick it up, my hand goes right to where it's supposed to go. It fits like a glove. And then if I do shoot it, I'm still right on point because my hand knows where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So once you practice a lot, you get that muscle memory.
I agree. There are some questions in the chat.
Sure.
Queen wanted to know, should you choose a firearm based on height and weight?
Not necessarily. It doesn't really. I'm a big back girl. It's probably not the right terminology, but I'm a fluffy woman, and I've carried small. I collect the North American Arms, the little tiny revolvers, and I've shot those. I carry one as my backup. So I don't think it has to do with your size. I do know of a lady that I've shot with before. She's a very petite woman, and she carries a Glock 17. So a Glock 17, meaning that it is a full size gun, maybe just a little bit bigger. It holds 17 rounds, but I would think that she's probably a buck 05 soaking wet. And that's just an idea, and as far as age goes, we do have some of the ladies in my group that are over 70, and they carry all different kinds. They have different kinds of guns. There was when I first started in the group, there was an older lady. I actually watched her lay down on the ground and shoot between her legs. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to be able to get to that, but I've got bad knees. And if I get down on the ground, I'm here. So I'm going to have to learn how to shoot from my back or roll over on my stomach and shoot, because I'm probably not getting back up. But she was able to do that. She was even able to rack her gun on her shoe.
Wow.
So that was pretty impressive.
Wow. That is impressive.
Yeah. And I think she was probably knocking on the door of 70 at the time. And that's been 7 years ago. And I still see she still slings it with the best of them.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing to that. I know people who are in the community, ladies who are petite, short, and carry full size. And I'm like, I typically don't. And I am taller and bigger than them. So it just depends on the person.
Yeah.
And how comfortable you are with what you pick out.
And how you handle it. It's not always about conceal. I hear all the time people say, well, you shouldn't be printing. And for those of you that doesn't know what printing is basically the image of your firearm underneath your clothing. And usually for ladies, I don't think men look at that. They don't look at us as carrying. Actually met a police officer. I was at an event and we were sitting there talking, and I asked, what kind of gun do you carry? Do you have backup? And he was telling me about his. I said, oh, I love those. I said, my carry. And he said, wait a minute, what? And I said, my carry. And he goes, what are you talking about? You don't carry a gun. And I was like, I do. He had no idea. And it was on my hip. It was actually printing. He thought it was a purse, a fanny
Mhm.
pack of some sort, and he was like, I had no idea. And he calls another police officer over and he says, do you think this woman would be carrying a gun? He goes, nope. And if she is, I'd probably be dead. I was like, why would you say that? And he was like, because you would have gotten a drop on me if you were a bad guy, because I wouldn't think that you would carry. And I said, well, in this day and age, you got to get that thought out of your mind, because women are bad guys too.
Children are
And
like, don't be,
yeah,
don't be naive.
no. And I mean, it's like bad guys are gender neutral.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, is there any more questions?
It is. Thomas asked, are you familiar with the law between Tennessee and the Virginia carry permit?
Well, Tennessee, I am familiar with. I don't go to Virginia very often, but with Tennessee, you don't necessarily have to have a carry permit. Now, to cross state lines, you do have reciprocity. So, meaning that you have approval to carry within that state.
Mm-hmm.
In Tennessee, we are what's kind of called a constitutional carry, but it's really not constitutional carry, because you can't carry in all places. You still
Mm-hmm.
have to follow by the Tennessee state codes. You still have to follow places that you can't go into government buildings unless it's stated. And there are a couple of buildings that they'll let you go into here. But other times there's like, no, you can't have your firearm here. You can't go into state parks. You can't be at school functions. I believe some of them are hospitals, like our major hospital here is Vanderbilt Hospital, and they are not 2A friendly whatsoever. Employees,
Mm-hmm.
they do not want them having one on their person. They do not want them locking them in their car when they're in work, even if they have it in a safe. They say no. The grounds are not to have a firearm on it whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So
schools
I,
are that way. Our court buildings are that way. Any federal building.
yeah. Well,
Stuff
we do
like
have one of our state buildings
that. Mm-hmm.
that they will allow, because we had a Tennessee Firearms Association that went in as a lobby, and we were allowed to carry in there. You just had
Okay.
to go into a different entrance.
Okay. I had somebody text me that they had a question, but I don't see their question. Tia, if you listen, I don't see your question, baby.
So, and
Mhm.
regarding the one for Virginia, if you're going to travel between states, make sure that you know that state that you're traveling to or through, that you have the ability to travel through there and you're legal. For me to travel into Illinois, my guns can't really technically go there.
Yeah,
See,
that's our next question. Do you recommend taking lessons at the range with an instructor?
yes, I do. You find an instructor. They're all different kinds. They have different qualifications, and some have had different training. When I taught with a private school, I taught with a police officer, and then I went on to teach by myself, but I didn't do any state classes. I just did basic pistol, which is a
Mhm.
safety type class. And then I went to work for a range as an instructor, and I was their only female instructor for a while. So that's okay. So vetting your firearms instructor and what people should look for and ask, you want to ask what type of training they have. Number one, it could be USCCA, it could be military instructor, it could, and as long as it's firearms, and they're going to be able to teach you how to use a pistol or a long gun. You can actually go to most of your state websites on the government sites, because you have to register if you're a firearm instructor and you're going to be teaching. You have to register with your state. So you can see what they've done. You can actually go to USCCA and see how they've qualified, how long they've been teaching, what their ratings are. The NRA doesn't always have the ratings of an instructor, but you will see a training counselor. You will see where they offer classes nonstop. Some of those, they can be good, and some of them are just there. Try to take money. I'm going to say. But you want to look at your pricing too. Just because somebody teaches a $30 basic pistol class doesn't mean they're a bad instructor. However, you could have somebody that teaches a basic pistol and they charge $500. That's a bad instructor to me, because $500 for a basic pistol, which is basic safety, is a far reach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you also get what you pay for sometimes. If you go to a range and they have firearms instructors there, the firearms instructors have to go through an actual training, and they're tested and to make sure that they can actually teach. And when you do any class through USCCA or NRA to be certified, they actually have you stand up in front of a classroom and actually teach these particular classes and go over. Sometimes it's a little short and brief, but I will say my USCCA class for instructor was 1 week long, because I also became a range safety officer when I did that as well. So that was very interesting, because I went in at 8 in the morning and I left at 8 at night, and the store wasn't even open yet.
Wow.
So that was to me, that was a very good class, because we had really good questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So your next question is for thoughts. Bought my first gun, Charter Arm 38, special revolver, 70-year-old woman. Let's do the guns. Not comfortable with semi-auto.
There's nothing wrong with those. I have one of the ladies in my group that her first gun was a Charter Arms 38 Special. 38 Special is not my favorite. I'm not sure if it's because the number of bullets that you have in it, because you have to keep in mind when you have a revolver or a wheel gun, you have lower number of bullets. So you can have anywhere from 5 or 6. So that's sometimes, if you've got 5 or 6, if you've got 7 bad guys and you've already used 6 bullets, trying to reload a revolver is almost impossible. I mean, some people, I do know a gentleman that I took a class from that was a wheel gun class, that he could reload his revolver in 3.4 seconds flat.
Wow.
And I was like, it was like magic. So, but those are things to keep in mind. My grandmother never knew, and I don't think her children knew, but she told me that she carries, or had carried, because she's gone now, but she carried a 22 revolver in her apron. Now, 22 was a very high popular bullet back in the day, and it's making a comeback. I don't discourage anybody from using a 22, because the proper placement of a bullet can do what it's supposed to do. And there's different kinds of ammo. Of course, they have protection ammo for 22s. And I'm pretty much more of a believer now that I had a friend that was robbed at gunpoint and shot in the face with a 22, and 2 bullets actually has, I want to say, destroyed his life, because he is missing all the teeth on one side.
Oh my.
It shattered his cheekbone. He has an actual hole where it came out and then went up here into the other cheekbone and shattered it. And then it missed his eye just by a tiny bit, maybe a centimeter of that. And so he has a hole in his, the roof of his mouth, because a bullet went through here and through his tongue and up through the roof of his mouth, and it came out his nose. So he's, and that was a 22. It just bounced around in there and did so much. And knowing him previously, very highly intelligent, and now you would think that he has some form of autism, or that he has Down syndrome of some sort, because he can't talk, and he just hasn't had the facial reconstruction that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's scary.
So I see the enhanced, he was saying with the enhanced, you can carry across state. It just really depends on the state that you're carrying in. There was one gentleman I worked with previously that he had handgun carry permits for 18 states, I believe. And he got them just because. He doesn't always travel to the States, but he got them just because.
Why not?
Yeah. There are some states, the enhanced for Tennessee, because Tennessee has two handgun permits. You have the enhanced and then you have the concealed carry. The concealed carry requires you to conceal at all times.
Mm-hmm.
The enhanced you can carry open or concealed. And because we are considered constitutional carry, you don't necessarily have to have that particular permit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I see Major Havoc Gun Talk, the Chief Range Safety Officer, and the RSO certification is very important as well. I agree. I took my certification for handgun instructor first and then realized I need to be a little bit safer. So within a few months, I went ahead and took the RSO course. I have not taken the Chief RSO course. There was one in my area, and I was actually out of town that when they had that. So it's on the table for 2025, on the list, not on the table.
Yeah. Got to make those lists of things that you want to accomplish in the year.
Definitely.
I need some training, and I haven't done my due diligence to get that in motion, and I need to do that.
Yeah, I was just looking at a training class last night, but I marked it off my list because it was for 50 caliber, to learn how to shoot 50 calibers in machine guns and belt fed guns and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, it's something I've never done before. But then when I started looking at it, just to get in the class is $200. And for every single gun, there was another $150, $35 here, $200 there. I was like, this is crazy.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, how many people do you actually have come into this class? Because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be going to a purse carry class this weekend, but I'm not sure if it's still on because there was only one person signed up when I signed up for it.
Okay.
So you can look at the USCCA website. They do have really good training for women, and they offer mini classes, and it may be $15 for that class, and then they offer some free classes as well.
Mm-hmm. Are there any classes that you would recommend to like a someone newer to firearms? Maybe they've taken some beginner instruction.
So I would say probably I always start with basic pistol because it offers you the safety of handling a handgun, and it also helps you with your sight picture, knowing what you're shooting at and what's beyond, and of course your 4 safety rules, and making sure that you are not mishandling your firearm, because it does happen. Some people become complacent, like they're like, yeah, I'm good with firearms, and they're talking to you, and the next thing you know, they rack the slide and they drop the magazine, not realizing after they've racked the slide to eject the bullet and they put that magazine in, there's another bullet in the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And because they just came complacent with that, and it happens. I've actually seen an actual instructor that was talking, and he had a gun who's like, oh, the chamber's clear. And I said, is it? And we checked it, and it wasn't clear. And he was like, oh, I know, I cleared that. Always, you treat every firearm as if it's loaded, no matter if it's just laying there. Even at the store, when I go in to look at one, they check it before they hand it to me, and I check it when they hand it. I'm like, I don't know you, but I don't trust you. I have trust issues like that. So I want to make sure that they are safe.
Yeah. And it's just probably a good habit to have as well.
It is. Definitely. Because if you are a firearms owner and you're putting your things away, you want to make sure that when you put it away, it's facing in a safe direction, and that there's nothing in the chamber unless it's going to be your home protection firearm.
Yeah. I had someone reach out to me who is in Louisiana, and most of the time the people who reach out to me are in the state that I'm in. So they're usually looking for information on like finding instructors and everything. And I know you spoke about them being able to go to like USCCA and looking
NRA, yes.
in the NRA. Um, and that's probably the best way that you would suggest that they go about
That
finding instruction.
and if it's a female, I'm gonna suggest looking at A Girl and a Gun or the Armed Women of America, because they have instructors as well. They may be USCCA certified. I do know that with both of those two groups, they make them go through a different certification so that they are certified with their group too.
Okay.
They may have USCCA, they may have NRA, they may have may even be police officers, but that are doing the training and so forth. But they make them go through their training, which probably is a compilation of both NRA and USCCA combined, and anything else that they can find with questions that they get from some of the ladies in the group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I actually dropped a video earlier today because I was at the range and I had taken I've done it here lately. I've noticed that I'm not going as often as I used to. I used to go almost every week. Then it was a couple times a month. Then it was maybe once a month. Now I'm like going every couple of months and I'm like I got to get back to going more often. But I also noticed like sometimes when I'm there, like what you spoke on, there's sometimes someone there, especially women, who are being trained by someone that you can clear if you've gone through any type of instruction or you've been handling firearms for a while, you can tell the person is not certified. They're just somebody who knows how to
Yes.
use.
I've been raised around guns. I know how to shoot guns.
Mm-hmm.
Witnessed that this past weekend. Usually, anytime that I'm on the range, I will see that. And I'll also, because my range safety officer and me, I'm going to call somebody out that's not doing what they're supposed to. For instance, we had our ladies group. We were all on the range, and there was these three men in the next bay to us. And I looked up, and none of them had safety glasses on. And then I
Mm-hmm.
look over, and there was one of them behind him, and he's loading his magazines and has his gun facing at them. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, wait, first things first, guys, you cannot load behind the lane. This
Mm-hmm.
range does not allow that. You signed for the rules upstairs, and it's on the door, which you can and cannot do. And you are now making it unsafe for other people on the range. And I've actually seen them before that was like, yeah, no, it's not that big of a deal. And they toss the gun over on the table and it goes off, and they're like,
Mm-mm.
and I was like, no, it's time to pack up and leave. And I've actually have left.
I don't blame you. I do not blame you. I've seen I my first experience of seeing something like that. There was a guy training loosely training
Yes.
two ladies, and whatever he had them shooting, they weren't comfortable with. So he just sends them out to the lobby, this gun store area, to say, "Well, go see about renting something that you might want to shoot." Well, how do they know what they? I was like, I can't, and I didn't know enough to be able to help them. But the person I was with was the person who instructed me. I'm like, go help them. He's like, that ain't
Yes.
got nothing to do with me. And I'm like, he's in the range, and he just sends them out there. What are they? They don't to a bunch of other men who are just going to give them something else that they probably aren't going to be
Yeah.
comfortable.
Well, this is the new gun that everybody's shooting. Here's the P365. You need this. I've seen that before. And I'm sure my friend that goes shopping with me constantly hates for he's probably counting in his head 3, 2, 1. I'm an instructor. Or that I'll say something along the lines, well, I wouldn't suggest getting that particular gun. I'm not sure she's going to like it. Or
Mm-hmm.
I hear them say, well, my wife needs something. Sometimes you'll hear the wife come in and the husband's with, and he says, or she says, well, I want to get something for my husband. I bought him here to pick it out, and I'm going to buy it for him as a gift. Sometimes it's kind of toeing the line with that because sometimes it's a straw purchase and sometimes it actually is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hear things like, yeah, that's the one I want you to get. And
Yeah.
so, are you sure? And then money's transpired. That's usually a straw purchase, meaning that the person is not allowed to purchase that firearm. I witnessed that when I worked in the industry, that these people figured, though, hey, they don't know us, they're new. We'll just go in there and I'll buy the guns for you, and they'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
But here in Tennessee, all of our background checks go through TBI, and TBI flagged them, and that's Tennessee Bureau Investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Yeah, you're caught now." So, like, no gun store in the Middle Tennessee area will sell to these people because they're shady.
Mm-hmm.
Just definitely. But if I see someone that is looking, um, I'll just interject myself in there. And even though I should probably stay in my lane and stay out of their business, but if I see them buying something just because it's small and it's cute and it's pink and it has all this stippling on there that looks like a rose, or it looks like a seafoam green or whatever, no. I'm like, that's beautiful and everything, but you could buy this gun over here that fits your hand, that you said felt good in your hand, and then you said this one doesn't, but it's pretty, so you want it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not earrings. Now,
Yeah.
granted, I do have some firearms that I like to dress up,
Mm-hmm.
but they're mine. I
Mm-hmm.
have some that have the base plates with my name on it. The back
Mm-hmm.
plate has my name on it. But those are also guns that I train with, and I put those plates on there because if I'm training and I'm dropping magazines and switching and reloading, I know it's my magazine. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to write on it with a marker. Now, I do usually write on some of them with a marker that I'll say that it's 1 through 5, because if one of my magazines is not working, I know that it's number 3.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have numbers on there, so I suggest doing that as well.
Yeah.
So,
That's really smart.
and
Um,
we've done classes with what's in your range bag. That's because you just never know. I have a range bag on wheels, so there's a little bit
yeah.
this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But I am somewhat familiar with NAAGA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm somewhat familiar with them, but I did not know that they have instructors.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. When you become appointed to own a firearm, is there a certain document given to you to own and carry that firearm? Should you always keep it with you? Here in the state of Tennessee, not necessarily. I do suggest that if you own firearms, that you take pictures of it, have written documentation of what your firearm is, keep receipts separated from them. So just in case if they're stolen, you
Mm-hmm.
have a picture of what was stolen, you have the ID number of the firearm. Um, it just depends on what state you're in, that where you purchase a firearm. I can say north of me is Kentucky. They have constitutional carry. They do also have a carry permit. And at one point, they did not, if you had a carry permit, you didn't have to have a background check each time you purchased a firearm. You just had to pull out your little card,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, okay, they run it, and that's it. That being because they run your background check pretty much every 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the only thing that I can think of that you would have. I know in Maine, you are required to list your firearms on your card and say what's on there. And I believe Illinois might on their FOID cards, that they may have to list what firearm they're going to have in their possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Which
don't
is,
know what. Go ahead. You're fine.
yeah, it was like they were just kind of shameful that you have to do that, and let the police know what gun you have and what you're carrying today, and if you go and buy another one, you got to take one off that list and add that on there. You can't just have it and then try to carry it around with you.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I had in that video, LGG. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure if it was at the range with me, it was not. I mean, I'm not going to say that for me. For me, it was not that powerful because it's going to be different for every person. Everything that I take that I own, I'm comfortable shooting everything. So yeah, that's why I tell people it's going to be to your comfort level. I have some that are more, they're better, I should say, firearms. So they have less recoil, way less, some like very little. And then I have some that have, my carry has a lot. So
Yes. You know,
yeah.
and if you're, I had a young lady that she was like, no, I'm intent on carrying this 45. It has to be a 45. Well, it's
Wow.
like, well, if you want to carry a 45, that's fine. Have you ever shot one? It can't be any better than shooting a 22. And I was like, oh, it's a big difference. It's a big
Mhm.
difference. Well, she bought a 45. And when she came down to shoot it, she was like, why did I buy this? I was like, because you were just intent on buying a 45 because someone told you that's what you needed.
Mhm.
You know, it's okay if it's home protection and you need to fire off some rounds and you hit your target, it's going to take
Mhm.
care of everything. But it's
Mhm.
also a lot heavier to try to
Mhm.
carry around with you. The ammunition's a little bit more expensive.
Mhm.
I find when the ammo is more expensive, people are not usually going to the range as much because they're like, well, I'll shoot 5 rounds and out of this box of 50 and I'll come back in a couple of weeks and shoot 5 more. You
Mhm.
pay more than that for the range fee,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
even if you go once a month, that's better than not going at all.
Yeah.
As an instructor, I don't get as much range time as I'd like.
Mhm.
So I do have a pass at an outdoor range that I go to at least once a month and try to shred some paper, shoot some steel, things like that. So my preferred at this current time is the 9 millimeter, and my backup is a 32 ACP, and my backup to my backup is a 22 Magnum. 22 Magnum happens to be my favorite caliber. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I just love it. I think it's there's not a lot of recoil to it, but it's very
Mhm.
loud and it's got a big flame that comes out. It lets everybody know they're there for the party.
Mhm. Yeah. And it just matters that you love it.
Yes. I
That's all
think
that matters.
yes. I had a young lady this weekend and she was like, I want to shoot the 22s. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, but I want to shoot this gun. I said, well, that's a 22 Magnum. It's loud, but it's not going to have as much recoil as a 9 millimeter and so forth. But try it. She shot the PMR 30 and she was like, I want this one. I was like, have at it. And last I saw, she was buying her a PMR 30.
Mhm. Awesome.
I have not trained in martial arts. No, not as any type of self defense with hands, or I have taken a class with pepper spray, and I didn't do very well. I sprayed my own self, so because I was like trying not to, and I have very sensitive skin, so I was like, no, this is not what I
Mhm.
want to do.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I have very, very sensitive skin. I do
Yes,
have pepper spray, but I do have sensitive skin myself. The weirdest stuff will set my skin off.
yes. I'm allergic to chocolate. I'm allergic to acrylic, so I never get acrylic nails or nail polish. If you want to see some fingers that look like the Flintstones, the big throbbing, my fingers actually swell up and almost the nail feels like it's popping off. So I'm like, yeah, let me just stay away from those.
Mhm.
So, but I do carry a knife with me.
Mhm.
I also have a fake knife, I guess you would say, a protection tool. It looks like a Sharpie, but
Mhm.
it's not a Sharpie. It is
Mhm.
a tactical tool,
Mhm.
and it's it can do some damage.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure it can do some damage.
Yes, because I thought, well, let me just try this out. And the first time I stabbed it out of box, I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
so it does leave it
Mm-hmm.
leaves a nice hole in there. But
Mm-hmm.
we do have a gun store around here that offers self defense martial arts training, and they also offer classes with firearm and defensive pistol.
Mm-hmm.
I have taken some defensive pistol classes. Um, my ladies group, we have a group in Mississippi
Mm-hmm.
that every year it's called the Powwow, and it's women from all of the United States come down to a range in Raymond, Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and they have different kinds of training. I've only gone one time, and I got to shoot all different kinds of long guns that I would never have shot before. Fell in love with the 300 Blackout, loved the 308. Was like, I gotta have these, and I gotta have this. Um, they had some older guns. Then they had a class that was on red dot and green dot, how to
Mm-hmm.
use your optics. That was very interesting. Then we also had the wheel gun class, using a revolver. And then we had the shoot house. And the shoot house was basically a scenario before you went in, and they had hidden targets or hidden bad guys behind doors, holding hostages, and you had simulation bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you've ever been hit by one of those, you know that it leaves a mark,
Mm-hmm.
and you try not to be hit by them again. I
Mm-hmm.
hit my own self twice because I hit the pole that these targets were on, and it ricocheted back and hit me a couple of times. But I was like, whew, but I still kept going, and I think I got confident that I know what I'm doing. I've had all this training, and I go through it,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to the last one, and I get shot because he was
Right.
hiding behind a door, and I was thinking, yeah, but he's too big to be behind a door. He's 250-pound man, and he's too big to be taking cover behind a door because there's no room. The door was about like
Mm-hmm.
this, and I was like, there's no room back there, and he was there and got me, and I was like, ugh, you know. So like, yeah, so it was then time to train the trainer.
Yeah, that's a good thing though. Is that an annual event?
It is. It's actually happening in about 2 or 3 weeks in
Mm,
Raymond, Mississippi. So when it opens up again next year, I will definitely let you know.
thank you. What did you say it's called?
Powwow.
Okay.
It's called the Powwow. It's a large complex, shooting complex.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice. They have actually a gas station set up there. They have an office building, and it has different compartments in there. So one is set up like a house, one set up like a restaurant, one set up like a bank. So you have all these different scenarios that you go through there, and it's a very large complex. And you can drive to the locations in there as well. Um, but it's really nice place,
Mm-hmm.
and
It
we
sounds
had
like
we
an
had a
event.
great time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you have an opening night ceremony, and then next day is range day. You do not have to bring your firearms. They supply the firearms and the ammo, so which makes it pretty reasonable to go to that event.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they ask you. When I did the shoot house, they were like, "Are you a Glock Sig?" I was like, "I'm a Walther girl." They're like, "Gotcha." And so I was able to go through there, and I was like, because if you're going to do any kind of training like that, you want something that you're familiar with. You don't want a brand new gun that you've never shot with.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my instructor courses, I don't own a Glock, but my instructor, well, I do now, but at the time I did not own a Glock, and my instructors were like, I think you're going to like this. And I'm like, I don't think so. And then I was like, oh, I love it. And
I
I was
still haven't shot a Glock at all.
like,
I've
okay,
never have.
okay. Well, it's not my go-to,
Mm-hmm.
but I love the Glock 17. Loved
I know
it.
a lot of people do. I hear a lot of people talk about them, and I'm like, I've never like that. I don't own one, nor have I ever shot one, and I have several firearms. So,
Yeah. You know, that Glock 17, I like the G5 better than the G4, or, you know, but there's just so many, and it's kind of like you just can't have one, and you
hmm
can't choose, but you want to um buy and trade and so forth. It's like,
hmm
yeah. I do not compete. I am on my list this year is to compete in a 22 challenge. And they have a 22 still challenge at another range complex near me. So I really want to try that. And then they also have a 3 gun that I'd like to try, and everything in the 3 gun, because I'm baby steps. Um, I want to try it with the 22. The baby step one is all 22. So I was like, yeah, I think I want to try that.
hmm
I think it's more, it is a valuable experience because you never know when you're going to have to run, you know, away from something, because you always have the options to run, hide, or fight. I do have a back injury and have bad knees, so I usually don't run from anything. I'm going to be the fighter all the time. I'll hide if I have to, if I can get
hmm
everything not being seen. One of the things in one of classes that I took was, if there's an active shooter, what is the first thing you're going to do? I'm going to take my shoes off because I don't want to be making noise sliding across the floor from wearing gym shoes and a squeaking. If I have jewelry that makes noise, I'm taking that off too.
hmm
Um, Making sure that my cell phone is on mute and that I'm covered and not concealed. Cover and conceal are two different things. So your conceal is just so it's not really being seen, and your cover is making sure that you are safe and tucked in, that you can still see what's going on out there if you need to get into the fight. So we do situational awareness, and we have for our group, we go to the outdoor range because we have more flexibility, and we have what's called date night with Glenn. So Glenn is our dummy, and he's our date for the night. And we set him in a chair, and we have a table set up, and we're standing there sitting at this table, and we're talking and just real life scenario, and then we yell fight. And they're supposed to get up from the chair, look to where the shooter is. Give the scenario, the shooter's over here, and what do you do? You know, knock Glenn over to the ground, either cover Glenn, or you're going to seek cover and still be
hmm
able to get a shot off. And because of back injury, I can't bend over all the way, or I can't get down on the ground as quickly. So I have a different way of doing things. And I found that that works better for me than it does of me just dropping to the ground and then not being able to get back up if I need to.
mm
So we've learned a lot with doing date night with Glenn. Some people had holsters that were not good holsters. We found out that's a holster you carry at all times. They're like, yeah, but you couldn't get to your gun. And by the time you got to your gun and you were looking over here fiddling with it, you look up and the bad guy's right there in front of you
hmm
and you're done.
Yeah.
So people have to rethink their holster and the type of carry. I think one of our incidents, everybody had the sneaky, not everybody, but there were several that had a sneaky Pete holster, which
hmm
looks like a phone holster that sits on your belt, and then it has a magnetic flap on it, and you've got to pull it up, and then it's a holster inside, and you got to be able to yank it out of that, but it's still this flap still falling down on you, and
hmm
pulling your belt with you and things like that. So that was one that I think most of the people said, yeah, this is not what we need.
hmm
And
Yeah.
of course, with your guns, everybody holster shopping. That's another thing. You got to find what works for you. And
Yep.
once you have it, practice, practice, practice.
hmm
I finally tried a pocket holster. I'd never, I'm like, what am I going to do with a pocket holster? I never have pockets. I'm like, but I do, you know? And so I finally have a pocket holster, and trying to get used to pulling it from that is, it's a learning experience for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I was gonna say you never have pockets. Like, look, when I get stuff and it doesn't, I'm upset. I need everything to have pockets, dresses, whatever, everything pockets.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just recently I work from home for my full-time job, and I my dress uniform sometimes is pajamas. And I just got pajamas with pockets.
Yes.
Yes. It has pockets on the pants, it has pockets on the shirt. And I'm like, okay, I'm a pocket girl again. I used to be
Right.
pocket when I was younger, and now it's kind of like, okay. But it has to be a certain kind of pocket. You
Mhm.
can't, that holster doesn't do well in sweat pockets.
Mhm.
It does do very well though in the pajama pocket. So I was like, I kind of like that.
That is
It
nice.
fits perfect in there. And I was like, I don't want to sleep with it. But then again, because it was something new, I kind of did. I was like, let's see how it feels.
Like pockets will sell a item for me. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, it got pockets. Oh, come on home with me.
Yeah, need pockets. Pockets,
I
pockets.
do pockets. I love it.
Yes.
I wanted to circle back to something you actually talked about in the very beginning,
Sure.
with imprinting, and not making that such a large concern with women when carrying. I know that was for me when I started carrying. I don't mind that. I don't want it to be that visible that I am carrying. It just makes me nervous that someone else will be nervous that I'm carrying.
I've had that to happen before because I actually came in from a shoot and I walked into the grocery store and didn't realize I still had on my battle belt and that my gun is, I'm walking, you hear it rattling. And
Mm-hmm.
this lady turns around and looks at me and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had another lady kind of look at me and she was like, well, I was kind of scared at first, but then I noticed that holster was pink. I was like, yeah. And she was like, so, what are you doing? But then sometimes there's people that are women specifically that are kind of curious and were like, can you teach me?
Mm-hmm.
I've had that to happen before, but usually I use a JM4 tactical if I'm going to deep conceal carry.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that you do have to practice with. It's a magnetic leather holster
Mm-hmm.
and it fits to my body that you can't even see it's there.
Okay.
And I like that. The only time you probably know it's there is that that magnet is so strong. I'm at the shopping or the convenient, not the convenience store, but the grocery store, and the shopping cart gets stuck to me, or my keys stick to it.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
So when I
that's
see somebody out shopping and the cart sticking to them, I'm like, I know what you're doing.
yes. Like okay, so this is a JM4 tactical.
Nice.
This is the magnet, and so it does stick, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to practice withdrawing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great holster as far as I'm concerned. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do IDPA or something with it, I don't use that one for IDPA because
Mm-hmm.
that's not what it's for. It's more for concealed carry. And then, of course, my pink one that she saw,
Mm-hmm.
I do like a paddle holster when
Mm-hmm.
I am doing any kind of training because it makes it so much easier. And of course, it's outside the waistband. If you're going to carry inside the waistband, of course, you've got to try drawing with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then of course, I don't have any with wings on it currently, but there's a wing that pushes it into your body so that you
Mm-hmm.
can't see it. And there's really no printing with it. And then, of course, the filster, which is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
No.
Well, the filster is like a belt that goes under your clothes and then the firearm goes to it and it actually pushes it into your body and it's supposed to be the most comfortable holster ever
Mm-hmm.
and you would never know that anyone is carrying. um, I was working a thing at the Glock store with a group of ladies and I was there and one of the instructors there, he's a little guy and I was like, yeah, I got the filster. And I was like, oh, I've been reading about that. And I was like, so "Where are you carrying?" And he pulls out a gun this size, and I would have never known he had it. Nobody knew he had it. And then he turns around, puts it back in, and I'm almost like, "What'd you do with it?" And he raised his shirt, and you could just see the butt of the gun, and that was it. I was like, "That's like magic." It was like, okay. And then of course we're all standing there going, "Do it again, do it again, do it again." Because it's like, how does this work? And he was like, "I can show you, but I'd have to unbutton my pants and kind of pull them down a little bit, and that's probably inappropriate." And we're like, "Yeah, don't do that." But one of the other ladies got one, and she was like, "This is the best thing ever," because she also stated that when she's wearing her filster, she does not have to remove her gun when she's going to the restroom. So that is the other thing with the JM4 Tactical. When you go to the restroom as a female, we have to drop it all. This JM4 Tactical, you can actually stick it to the back of the bathroom door. I put it at eye level, and my eyes never leave it. Because I definitely don't want to leave it there. And when I'm done with my business, I grab it, pull my pants up, and then I strap it on. And then that's probably not the right terminology either, but just hook it on my hip, and then I'm ready to go out and wash my hands and leave. So a lot of us carry those. I did research on it when I first started carrying, and I was like, I don't know if this is something I want to carry. And I was like, I don't want anything heavy. I don't normally wear belts, and I don't want a big, huge holster. Like a Canik comes with a huge holster, and I will never carry that holster.
It's not comfortable.
It is not comfortable. And because I'm allergic to most acrylics, some of these things are not good for me. And then of course you can put, if you're inside the waistband with a Kydex holster, you can actually put some type of mohair type of adhesive to it so that it's not rubbing up against your body. Or you can wear a t-shirt, but here in the South, it's hot and nobody wears a t-shirt anymore.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I know for me, one thing I did not know when I first started shopping for holsters is that you don't just go get holsters. You got to get the holster for the gun that you need the holster for.
Yes.
So I didn't know that. And that's something that there's probably people who are just curious who wouldn't know that either. I did see Grant Acres ask about a way of trying out holsters. I don't know anything in regards to that. I just have purchased ones, and yes, I have a lot of them that I did not like.
Yes. Most of it, there's not really any place that you can go and try holsters. There are some companies that will let you buy and return if it's not fitting properly, and you have to prove that it's not fitting properly. So I love Gun Goddess, and they make holsters for women and men. So this is a Gun Goddess holster. It's very light, and it does have the paddle on the back. I like this paddle because it actually has a little bit of curve to it, so it curves to my hip when I have it on. We're my next month class for our ladies here. We are actually going to bring in holsters because a lot of us have holsters that just don't work. I knew what I wanted for one of my firearms, and I said, I really want a leather holster, but I want to be able to carry it on the outside, and I want to be able to put a optic on it. And so I started looking around, and I did research on them, and I found the 1776 holsters. I actually loved it, but I took a class with it, and it didn't turn out to be that great. It's okay for me to use it if I'm around my house or my property, or if I'm even taking a different kind of I'm at the outdoor range. It's okay. It is not something that I would actually carry for a protection at this point in time. I would need to practice a lot more. But you can always, if you have a group of women that you're associated with, and you might have the same firearm and they have a holster, you can always try your friend's holster. Or join the ladies group, because there's going to be somebody in that group that has your firearm that you can try their holster and see if you like it. There's also the flashbang holster. I do not have a flashbang, the actual flashbang, which is a bra holster.
Okay.
Okay. Not sure if you're familiar with that,
Mm-hmm.
but it is woman-owned company. I just got their Betty 2.0, which is an in waistband holster, and I absolutely love it. And I was surprised at it because I'm like, I really don't know if I'm gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I got it and it fits perfect. And I actually bought two because they had a like a garage sale, and holsters are not cheap.
They're not.
They are not cheap. We're talking for a good holster, it's gonna be $89 or more.
And
And
not
you
just the
find
ones I don't use.
yes, and there's people that like the modular holsters. That you can put things on it and take things off, and the stealth holsters and um, crossbreed and things like that. The crossbreed holster, I have a friend that loves hers. It looks great for her, but for me, I'm like, that thing is big. Where am I going to put it? I'm like, I might be a big girl, but I'm also a petite girl too. And where am I going to put it? It just looks like it's not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, then there's others that have pancake holsters, and they love those, or those sticky holsters. Um, they're just not for me. The sticky holster, I've tried it. It was not. I was not a fan of it. I've
Mm-hmm.
got a couple of DeSantis for my small guns, and they were they held up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed with for my 32 ACP. It fits in there. The trigger's covered. I can use it in my pocket. I can use it in my waist, and you would never know that it's there. And it was easy to draw from. It's not anything that you have to mold. There's a couple of firearms that they tell you in order to mold the actual um, holster, you need to wrap your gun in plastic and stick it in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one company that I read their instructions, and that's what they told me to do. And I was like, what do you mean plastic? Are you talking about shrink wrap? And she was like, no. I said, well, I've got some like saran wrap from Publix. And she was like, oh, that's the good stuff. It's really thick. Use that. And prior to doing that, I could not get the gun in and out of the holster. But once I wrapped it in that plastic and started sticking it in there and let it sit for a couple of days, it was perfect.
Interesting.
And I was like, what does it do? And that's the scientist going on in my head and was like, let me make a list that I need to research that. I've got other things to do, but I need to research that.
Yeah. Now, I've never been to a gun show myself, but do they have sometimes? Have you been to a gun show before?
Oh, yeah.
Do they usually have holster companies there as well, or is it just guns?
Yes, they do. Here in Tennessee, they do have holster companies. Some of them will actually make your holster right there.
Okay.
They will make it for your gun, but that still doesn't mean that it's comfortable.
That's true.
This one here is probably my most favorite. And I have other firearms that will fit in it, but they're either longer or they're shorter or they're thinner, and it's the same make and model. But I was like, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. So, and then you also have to decide on your holster, are you going to have optics on there? Or are you going to have lights on there? And if you're going to have a light on there, you've got to have it specially made to fit your light. Mm-hmm. If you're going to have an optic on there, you have to have an optic cut. Mm-hmm. And so that helps too. And back to the flashbang is the one that fits on the bra, and you snatch it down, and they call it flash because you raise your shirt and then pull the gun down because most men are not going to. Most men are going to figure it out.
Sounds like a good plan because they're going to be distracted by the shirt coming.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And I actually talked to the owner of Flashbang last week, and we were just kicking around different stuff, and I was like, that is the idea perfect, that you flash them. And they're like, what?
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, well, if I didn't have a gun on me or something happened, that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. There you go. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I know that's probably wrong, but I'm like, it's a last ditch measure right there. Yes. Or a last ditch effort.
It could be, yeah. And it could be life-saving.
It could be.
Never know. So I'm looking to see if there's more questions in the chat. Um, I do have another question that was
Sure.
asked. Do you know, or do you have any instructors in other states other than Tennessee that you could recommend to, um, like someone you may, have contact with or worked with before that you're like, oh, well, this person in this particular
I
state
do.
is.
I do know a couple. I had some friends that were in Oklahoma
Mm-hmm,
and referred them to an instructor, and she did great by them.
mm-hmm,
I have a couple of friends in Georgia, and I'm not sure she's in Georgia anymore. And then there's a couple in Florida.
mm-hmm.
She Fires is in Florida, and she's an instructor, and she has
Okay.
a YouTube channel as well.
What's the
Um,
again?
she Fires,
Oh, she fires. Okay.
yes. She's so and I think she works with Gun Owners of America now also.
Okay.
So she's a good resource also, and watching and following ladies that do shoot, those are excellent videos, because there's a few that I will just stop, drop, and like, oh hey, it's like okay. And as an instructor, sometimes I'm like, do I critique them on something they're doing? But I'm like, you know what, it's working for her,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
works for one may not work for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with the firearm, because I have one that I just loved, wanting to love shooting it, and I actually do, but I have to adjust my grip on it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different, every firearm is different for everybody. Some of the instructors, like myself, um, we take people that are looking for firearms and we take them shopping, tell them
Mm-hmm.
what to look for. I always ask, what's your capacity? What is your budget? You know, have
Mm-hmm.
a pretty good size budget, because you may find something that's under your budget that's going to
Mm-hmm.
work for you, and it's still a really good gun. I've had other people tell me $1,000 is the best budget you should have. I'm like, well, I'm not shopping for a Staccato. I'm not shopping for a Legion or anything that I want something that's going to be meats and potatoes, and it's going to take a licking and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggest a budget between 600 and 700.
Mm-hmm.
That includes your background check, your taxes, whatever your state has, because we have stores here in Tennessee that are out the door stores. So if the tag says it's $500, that's what you're paying, $500, which includes your tax, background check, and the price of the gun. And you go
Mm-hmm.
right on out the door after you've done your background.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that also being said, the 4473 is the form that you use when you're purchasing a firearm. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many changes that keep happening with it. It's so confusing. I might have bought a gun in January, and I come in March and look at it, and the whole thing's changed again, or the sections have been moved. So those are things to keep in mind too. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're purchase a lot, it's not the same as it may have been 90 days ago. It's a little bit different.
Yeah. I haven't noticed any differences myself here in Ohio when I've
Okay.
gone.
And
Um,
it just depends also. I noticed a difference that I purchased a couple of times in a day. And I
mhm.
noticed that the different stores I went to, the forms were different. I was like, this is different than it was over here. So it's supposed to be the same.
Yeah.
The paper form is the same. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, we have just a different format.
Okay.
So I'm like, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
So, and we do have gun stores around here that are telling us, if you don't have the real ID by May 1st, with the little star on your ID,
Mhm.
that you will not be able to purchase firearms. I've not found any clear cut documentation that says that that is true.
Mhm.
I thought it was just for traveling myself, but like it is
Yeah.
what it is.
It was, and I didn't hear it about firearms. I heard it about something else, and I can't remember what it was. Something that the new ID came into play with, and I was like, by now, who I
Yeah.
don't know why everybody wouldn't have it, but I guess some people wouldn't. But
Yeah.
you know,
Well, there's some people like, well, I just plan on never traveling. I'm like, You never know. But I know you have to have it to enter state buildings or federal buildings,
You do?
and I'm like, I don't plan on entering any of those at any time soon. So I'm like, but I just never know. It might arise, so,
Yeah.
but you just never know. I know you have some more questions.
I'm looking to see. There is just it's just
I'm looking too.
chatting. Um yeah, they won't allow you to catch flight. Well, no, you can't fly without it. Um yeah. And I mean, there's really only that I remember because I've had mine for a while. I don't really remember everything, but I think there was only one additional document I needed, which was my birth certificate, I think.
I think
Or
for
it was like and/or stuff. But if I had the birth certificate, that was good enough.
Yeah, there's here in Tennessee on the list because I don't have mine yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
You do have to have two forms of identification,
Mhm.
one of the birth and one to prove where you live.
Yeah, I think the
Like,
proof was always a thing, though. The new thing
yeah,
for me, the birth certificate.
yeah.
Here,
So I was like, I've got the birth certificate, and they're like, well, it can't be a copy; it has to be stamped. So
it
I
does.
was like, okay. So the states are busy trying to get those out to people, and people are waiting to the last minute and trying to go in, and it's 3 and 4 hour waits here. So
Mhm.
it's kind of ridiculous. And there's some that'll accept appointments and some that don't. I went a
Mm.
couple of weeks ago to try to get mine, and I got there, and I was like, my appointment was at 11 and I got there at 9 just in case. And there was 35 people in front of me. And I was like,
Wow.
how does that happen?
Wow. So you don't travel usually?
I do, but I usually drive.
Oh, okay.
I usually drive because I have marsupials as pets
Mhm.
and they're not allowed to fly.
Okay.
So when I travel like to Michigan, last year I went to Michigan for a sugar glider convention. Those are my marsupials. And I drove, and I was glad that I drove. And then our Airbnb only showed pictures of the inside and the front of the house. It didn't show the neighborhood. And
Mhm.
we were actually right off of 8 Mile in Michigan, which sometimes you can go down a block and it's nice. And then you just
Mhm.
turn a corner and you're like, whoa.
Mhm.
And we were in the whoa. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to gunfire outside, and I
Oh.
was like, and
Oh.
everybody else is asleep in the house, and I'm like ready, locked and loaded. I'm like, what's going on?
Mhm.
Where do I need to go? And
Mhm.
then I noticed that morning that we had bulletproof glass on the windows.
Wow.
I was like, bulletproof glass, and we never left any of our cars there either. So we just had where we were staying. They just drop us off, and there was no cars there. So I was like, yeah, I guess this is okay. And it was a kind of a scary moment. But
Wow.
I didn't go outside because I'm like, I know for sure I don't take the fight to them. Just if
Mhm.
you want to bring it to me, bring it to me. I'm going to try to end it, but I'm not coming there.
Mhm.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of different things to learn with firearms.
Mhm.
Let's see, can your state
She's
the
saying, can you
website
state the websites and places to locate um, trainers,
the
instructors?
the USCCA is one, as well as the NRA um, website that you can go just kind of look at the NRA or type in their NRA and instructors. And it, of course, Google is always going to bring up schools and different things, but only go to the NRA site. The same as for USCCA. Um, that you're going to look at those particular things and make sure you've got it together. And then
Um,
they'll list the different courses and classes. I think NRA still has their class for women, and I know they do because there's one here in Tennessee every 90 days or so, and which is it's pretty good class.
mhm.
It's just like a shooting clinic.
Yeah.
And we do have a couple of ranges around here that have ladies' night. We have one range um, that has ladies' night, and it is sold out 3 months in advance.
Wow.
I actually got into the class because I just wanted to see why does it sell out, and my group does more than they do.
Mm.
They take you into a classroom and they basically go over the safety rules, who needs help, who needs guns, who needs ammo, who's never shot before.
Mm.
Those that have shot, go to the range. Go to the range. And that's pretty much it. And then when you're ready to leave, they escort you out the back door, and that's it. I was like,
Wow.
maybe it's the range itself because it is a very nice range.
Mm-hmm.
There are some ranges that have those rubberized walls at like the place that you go to shoot at, those
Yeah.
rubberized walls, and
Mm-hmm.
it bounces off. I have burns on my arm from being at one of those, and I was like, why does it just keep sticking to my arm and burns me? But for me, when I'm shooting, my adrenaline goes up, so I get a little moist
Mm-hmm.
and I sweat a little bit, and then it just sticks and burns. But I'm like, why do I leave with them all?
Yeah. You know what? Tend to sweat sometimes when I'm at the range, and I just be feeling like it's hot in there. And I've been with other people, and they're like, "No, it's not hot." I never even accounted it to be my adrenaline was up.
Yes.
That was why, because I'm like trying to wipe sweat
Yes.
off, fogging up my eye protection. It's a whole thing.
Yes. Well, a little trick about your eye protection to keep it from fogging:
Mm-hmm.
bar soap. I learned that during COVID. You put bar soap on there, dry, and then
Mm-hmm.
wipe it off. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a tendency to fog.
Interesting.
I was like, how does that work?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So, and I'm like, okay, but I've also bought, as I've gotten older, my eyesight is kind of failing me. So I just recently got some safety glasses that have bifocals in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And they were supposed to be fog proof, and they have been. They've actually done very well, and I was like, that was the best $18 ever spent. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, yeah, I kind of like them, and they also have the curvature around to keep so that you don't have casings that drop in behind your glasses,
Yes.
because that can
I've
happen,
had,
or on the side.
yeah, I've had it happen.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
not had
really
that happen.
I don't really panic with when they hit me, because I get hit by them a lot. Even if they catch it right there, I just kind of, but it's hot, but I just kind of knock it
Flip
away.
it to the side.
Yep,
Just keep
and keep
going.
going.
In my class Saturday, one of the ladies, she was like, all this stuff is coming back at you and you have not flinched one time. And it was like, I've gotten used to it. I said, the sound, everything. I took my
Yeah.
mom, sister, and my brother-in-law shooting, and my mom was like, how do you not jump every time you hear that gun go off? And I was like, I think I'm just used to it and it
Mhm.
doesn't bother me. I'm on my neighborhood watch group, and somebody was shooting off fireworks the other night, and they were like, "Oh, it's gunfire! It's gunfire!" And I was like, "It is not gunfire, because gunfire doesn't sizzle after
Mhm.
it's gone off, and that's
Mhm.
sizzling." And they're like, "How do you know?" I was like, "We've had this discussion before. We're good." Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but yeah. So you just get used to it. I also am
Mhm.
aware that I do not wear rayon anymore. I used to have
Mhm.
some rayon type t-shirts, and I don't
Mhm.
wear that to the range anymore either, because I actually got a casing that fell right here on my chest, burnt through the blouse and burnt me, and I was just like, no idea. And we're
Yeah.
like, and it was an expensive shirt. I had just come from work, and it was like, the range is on the way home. I'll go shoot, and then I'll just go home.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like, no,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's some people that said, oh, don't wear shorts. Shorts, I'm no big deal with that. Shorts,
Yep.
um,
Dress. I've
or
worn it all.
dress,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I do not wear the V-necks anymore.
That's what I when you said the rayon, it's been a V-neck for me that I'm like,
Yeah,
ugh.
yes. Yes, I've actually been at ranges before where there have been ladies that are it's date night and they've got everything hanging
Mhm.
out and they're going to shoot and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, should I say anything or should I just let it happen? You know? And I'm
Let it
like,
happen.
if I'm
It's like
on the
children.
range, if I'm on the range, I let it happen. If I'm not on the range, it's none of my business. I don't work there. I'm not here for that. I'm staying in my lane. And then the
Mhm.
next time I see you, they're like, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, because I was minding my business, staying
Yep.
in my lane. Sorry. I was like, yeah, okay. But that's and I do my hobby is going around to different gun stores and seeing what they have.
Really?
Yes.
See, I don't know. It's a rabbit hole for me, so I rather not because
Yes.
then I want to get things, and I'm like,
It's not, yeah, it was like it's not in my budget today, or it's not in the budget this month and or this year, and I have a list of like this is what I'd like to have. I have to wean myself from buying stuff that's brand new.
ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
if it's brand new because things happen, um, they have issues. I purchased one back, I believe, in November, maybe, and brand new. Everybody wanted it. I wanted it because I loved it. It felt good in my hand. I shot it. I loved it. But then I
Mhm.
couldn't take it apart because it had an issue.
Mhm.
Trying to figure out what the issue is.
Mhm.
And it happened to be the guide rod and the
Wow.
spring. So the spring kept popping off inside. Every
Mhm.
time it would shoot fine, but then it would not go back into battery completely. And I'm like,
Mhm.
you know, got a new part to it. Then I got magazines, and then the magazines hold 12, and I could only get two in there. I'm like, that's a problem. And then
The
people found out
problem.
how to fix it. And I was like, you know what? As much money as I spent on this, I should not have to take cuticle scissors and cut anything off of it. They need to
Mhm.
fix it.
Mhm.
I'm not going to take my time. Well, it's just going to be a safe queen. Well, it'll be a safe queen until this manufacturer fixes their issues and sends it to me. I'm not a gunsmith.
Yeah.
I'm a gunsmith on my own guns because I will do some color coding every once in a while.
Mm.
Oh, like yeah, and I'll add different things, a back plate and a base plate here and there. Add two more rounds to my group there, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
but
Awesome.
it's a good question. New shooters are often intimidated. All female classes are often more comfortable. Or yes, they are. They are very intimidated. I hear pretty much out of most of the women in my classes now are my husband taught me how to shoot. My son taught me how to shoot. But when they get out there, they have those fingers. I can say thumbs forward, thumbs forward. If I had a dime for every time that I said thumbs forward, I would be a rich woman and I could buy my dream gun. So
Mhm.
my dream gun changes from day to day. So I have a list and I mark out it might be number one on the list today and tomorrow I mark it off because it's number five. And then it moves up something else. Right now I'm really liking the steel frame firearms.
Mhm.
I like those a lot. Really like the new Canex steel
Mhm.
frame
The
SFTs, I think. They're
Mm.
really nice and they come with a nice hefty price tag. And I'm like, I don't want to that coin and then buying the freedom seeds to feed it. I gotta get it to justify.
Mhm.
Um, no, I don't necessarily. Well, I do. My unicorn for a long gun is a 45 ACP AR. That was the first AR that I ever shot, and I
Mhm.
fell in love.
Mhm.
Fell in love with it, and I was like, I've got to have one. Um, you can do the build for it, but it is very pricey. Very, very
Yeah.
pricey. Um, I haven't marked staccato off the list, but it hasn't moved to in the top 10 either.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe a little over talked about.
Mm-hmm. Have you shot
But
one?
I have not. I had the capability when I worked at the gun store to shoot one, but I was more interested in the shotguns.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay. And my other dream long gun would be a Beretta 1301 20 gauge shotgun. But I just have a hard time paying $1,400 for a shotgun. Let me
I
say
can
that
see.
again. $1,400 for a shotgun. I
Yeah.
no, I could buy
There's
some shoes.
there's at least one person I'm familiar with in this chat that yeah, $1,400. That's man, they don't have anything that low in their collection. Do you follow
Oh,
Twitter in LA and the foolishness
yeah.
that he purchases? Oh Lord. He has a
The
nice collection.
I've seen. I'm like, interesting. So why are they so expensive? They can ask anything for anything.
Yeah.
They can ask what they want to, what they think is a good price, and there's going to be somebody that's going to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there
Yeah.
are guns that are not as expensive that are excellent guns.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking at the Bear Creek firearms. Those pistols, every video that I've seen on it has been very good, and people that I have talked to about them have talked about how well made they are. And I was like, really? And
Mm-hmm.
it's under $500. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why don't I have one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just different brands and different things. I don't necessarily go after something that the warranty is not good on.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, Sky was a pretty good gun. I've shot it before. I like the aesthetics of it. I like the way that it feels in my hand, but it doesn't shoot well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other people that have shot the Sky said, "Oh, you know what? It did wonderful for me," and they like it. How
Mm-hmm.
about it? Maybe their new DVG might work. I haven't shot that one. I haven't had that opportunity, but I've had the CPX 1, 2, and the 3. And those were just kind of like, yeah, no, it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone to gun stores that they say, I would never sell those in my store. You
Mm-hmm.
know, what's your favorite caliber?
Well, most probably 90% of mine are 9 millimeter.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Because keep in mind, when you start expanding calibers, you gotta
That's
get
why I
different
didn't.
ammo.
That's why I didn't. And I like a 9. So there's that.
There's
And
that.
I
I
don't have
did
to
the
buy
same
a lot of
thing.
different.
I was like, I'm not going to buy an AR because that is another caliber that I have to have.
Well, I might have that too, but
Yeah, I was like, that's another caliber. And then it's more expensive. I have to look at the price. It's kind of like buying a printer. The ink, you're looking at this printer that costs $80, but the ink is $120, Like, I don't know.
yeah, the
But
amp is definitely more expensive for the
yes, it
AR.
is. But I found my AR and she's rose gold. And
Mm.
she's got a little sparkle to her, and I've named her Fancy.
And that sounds fancy. So
Yeah. And I absolutely love her. Some of the
mhm,
ladies just kind of look at it and go, But when I bring it out, the men go, hey, what's that?
mhm,
And I'm not sure if it's the color because when it's in the sunlight, it almost has like a purple iridescence to it. And
mhm.
sometimes it almost looks like it's white with a cream color. But I'm like, no, she's rose gold.
Yeah, that
You
sounds
know?
nice.
So that was another thing with Cerakoting on a firearm. I did not realize that when you Cerakote a long gun, if you get a little nick in it and you want to have that repaired, you got to do the whole gun and not just the nick.
Wow.
So I had a couple of Cerakote companies that have told me that there's like it's just not going to turn out right because you got to match the color and it has to be exact or you're going to have a little bit more purple, a little bit more pink, a little bit more gold, a little sparkle here. I'm like, yeah, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So what you would think is gonna, like a chipped nail, you're gonna put a little polish over it. It just doesn't
And
work
keep
that
it clean. Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I also found out recently, which I thought was odd, that I think it was one of the holster companies that she was explaining to me that not all ladies holsters are going to fit right, and you may need a longer screw or a shorter screw, and then you can tighten this, tighten that, but not all ladies have Loctite. And she said if you don't have Loctite, fingernail polish will do the trick too.
Oh, interesting.
So I actually found a little bottle of polish, and I did exactly that, and it stopped my wobbling screw. And then when I said, I think I want to try to take this out, I was able to break the seal on it, and it came out perfectly, and it wasn't stripped. I was like, had no clue. So fingernail polish.
I didn't either, because when the first time I put an optic on one of my firearms, they said that you needed the Loctite to make
The blue Loctite.
Sure that, yeah. And I would have used fingernail polish because what lady doesn't have that?
Yeah. And I'm like, I had to search deep for it because I had like a little gift bag that had all these different things. And I was like, well, I don't really wear polish, but okay. And that was
I never wear it.
Yeah. No, I don't even have nails really. If I put polish on, my sugar gliders will like try to bite it off. So I just don't do that. But and also then I'm allergic to the acrylic in some of them too. So I'm like, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. But now I have fingernail polish in my range bag.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I like the M&P 1522 AR also. My mother does too.
Nice.
So when we went shooting a couple of weeks ago, that's the only thing that she wanted to shoot, and she was tearing it up. And she was like, "Can I have another one of those things?" And I said, "The magazine." She goes, "Yeah." I didn't have to tell her how to take it out and put it in. She did it, and she slapped it in there, and she pulled back, and she's like, and I was like, "Oh," she goes, "You know what would make it even better?" And I said, "What would make it better?" She goes, "If it had one of those things on there that you just hold the trigger down and they just keep going." And I said, "Oh, yeah. How do you know that?" So Mama's been watching YouTube.
It sounds like it. Nothing wrong with that. I call it YouTube University. When I want to know something, I just start searching on there.
So you can find what you need. But yeah, there's all kinds of little tricks and trips and all kinds of stuff that you learn from other people, and what to have in your range bag, what you have an outdoor range bag and an indoor range bag. And I was like, well, both of those always have pretty much the same thing minus the sunscreen and the repellent, so I'm like, yeah. But, I have never been to a range in Ohio, and I've lived in Ohio multiple times. So I was like, I might have to make a trip. I am planning a trip up that way though.
Well, you'll have to let me know when you do so I can see how close you come to where I am.
Okay. I know I'm going in through Columbus and then up through Cleveland. I'm going to hit some of my stomping grounds where I lived at.
Yeah, Cleveland is definitely a ride for me.
Yeah.
Columbus, depending on the area, I'm anywhere from an hour to a few hours, depending on what part of Columbus.
Yeah. I've used to live in Circleville and Dayton and Xenia and Beaver Creek, and I'm like, I could keep going. So
I'm in Dayton, and honestly, I consider Beaver Creek and stuff like that Dayton.
Yes, definitely.
This part of Dayton.
Yeah, they were like, well, you're on
Kettering, Beaver Creek, Centerville, Dayton.
Yeah. They're like, are you going to be over here? I'm like, when I'm in Xenia, they're like, are you going to be at Kettering? Or are you going? I was like, we're not going there. I'm like,
Xenia is separate. I consider them separate because that's another drive. So
yes. It is a little bit further.
Yeah, like Toledo, Xenia, stuff like that. That's a couple hours.
Yeah, Toledo. Yeah. I was I actually went into a gun store outside of Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
Finley, I think it is. because it's
Mhm.
on the Underground Railroad, the town is.
Mhm.
And I was not received very well there. I was actually asked to leave.
Shocking.
Yeah, I was
Hmm.
asked to leave. And I was like, really? Yeah. So,
So shocking. In Finley? Really?
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, okay, I didn't know. I had no idea whatsoever." I'm like, I can't just stop anywhere and go. You just never know. And this, it's right.
In Ohio, like
It's everywhere.
there's a reason, and that is true. It is everywhere, but there's a reason that our gun laws are so great in Ohio.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did have one of my sugar glider friends. She was like, "I'm not going to come to the event in Ohio because you can't carry a gun here and you can't do this and you can't do that." And I was like, "Hold
Where?
on." That's exactly what I said. I was like, "Hold on. When's the last time that you looked?" I'm like, "Just because you live in Indiana doesn't mean that Ohio has the same rules."
Does
And she
not.
was like, "What?" And I was like, I was told by the state park and the state trooper that pulled me over, I can carry wherever I want to.
You absolutely can.
And he was okay with that. So when I went up to the lake on the other side of Cleveland, they had
Hmm.
not a clue. They didn't care. It was like, okay.
No,
And I
I
was like,
just most people are
yeah,
in my city. Yeah.
yeah. So it was, I know the Ohio very well,
Hmm.
very well.
Yeah. That's awesome. This has been great, though. I feel like a lot. I don't see any more questions.
I'm looking too.
But I feel like a lot of things were answered that were helpful for anybody who is, because some people are on the fence, and then some people are actually ready to dive in, but they just didn't know where to turn to as far as for instruction.
Yeah.
And like I told them, I follow most of the people I follow in the women. I shouldn't say the people. Most of the women I follow in the community are on the Instagram side more so than the
Yes.
YouTube side. Um, and I've started, I've had people introduce me to more and more and more. I found you through ITT. So it was like I saw you first over there and I was like, I like her. Like
Yeah, and I don't have I have Instagram, but I
Mhm.
don't have a YouTube channel. I just don't have the time for the content, and because I do work a lot of hours. I'm anywhere from 65 to 70 hours a week, and I make time for my gun stuff, my range stuff, but I just don't have time to get out there.
Mhm. So
Instagram, I am Tennessee Goddess there. I
mhm.
think, am I Tennessee Goddess 615?
I think it's just Tennessee Goddess.
I think so. Because I have to change it sometimes because I have some offshore people that keep messaging me.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. No, I think it's just Tennessee Goddess.
yeah,
That's all I
it's
see
just
when I
Tennessee
go to my
Goddess.
feed. Um so TN is not actually the word spelled out. TN Goddess. On Instagram, and I think I still have some mods in here, so they might drop it in the chat. The link to your IG,
Okay.
and would they be able to? I think she thinks I ended the live. Would they be able to reach out to you if they were interested in doing instruction, possibly where you are? If they know they're in Tennessee, but they're not quite sure if they're near you.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
more than welcome to.
Okay.
The only thing is that I'm not associated with a range. And as
Mm-hmm.
an instructor, you have to be associated with a range, but I'm always happy to take my friends to the range and help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because they think of it as that you're crossing the lines or you're taking money out of their pockets. But if you don't have a female instructor, you're not taking money out of your pocket. You're losing it because here's somebody that wants to help your female population that's coming in here, and
Mhm.
I teach both men and women. Don't have a problem with that. My favorite restaurant, a Mexican restaurant locally, the owner was like, I'd like to learn how to shoot. Do you know where to send me?
Mhm.
And I was like, yes, to me.
Mhm.
And he was like, I'd rather give you my money because you seem like you're patient. you're going to allow me to learn and have a good time. And I was like, I'm going to give you an addiction. That's what I would do. And he was like,
That's exactly what happened for me.
yeah. And
Somebody warned me.
when I come in now, he's like, you were so right. And I was like, I didn't think that it would be that big of a thing for me, because I thought, you only really need one, just one. You don't need a long gun unless you're going hunting or anything like that. And Fancy was in a store calling my name, and I was like, I'm good with the 1522 AR. I don't need anything else. And every time I went in that store, there she was, and there she was, and there she was, until the owner says, if I knock $300 off of that, will you take it home? And it was like, oh, bless. Yes, sir, I will.
Ooh, see, that's why I don't go to the stores in Peru. That's why.
Yes.
Don't I'm already tempted. And then,
that's kind of why I go to the stores, because they get to know me.
yes.
And once they get to know me, they want to offer me a discount.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about discount. I'm a frugal shopper. It's like, yeah, $25 off this, that's fine. $50 off this, $100 off this, I'm good. Or you can even going around the different places. We used to have a little shop, and an older gentleman had a shop that he sold all kinds of gun supplies, no guns, just ammo and gun supplies. And I could go in there and I could get a well-known optic for $125. Because he got them at such a cheap price when he bought them bulk, that he just passed that savings along, and he only made a little bit off of it. And then his ammo prices, sometimes when ammo during COVID, they were pretty expensive. He had like a case of 9mm for $600.
Wow.
I was like, no, I do shop online a lot for my ammo, and I do go to different places that I know where the ammo has a really good price locally. I found a couple of stores and a range that is in a person's backyard that he's opened up to the public, and he has a gun store in there also. His prices can be a little high, but he was like, yeah, it's been here for 10 months and nobody's even looked at it. I'll make you a deal. So, put it on my wish list, keep going. So it's just going and looking. And even though this was in the back hills of Kentucky, of all places, I was like, I think there's probably one African-American person in this whole town. And right now it's me. But then the guy, he was like, we don't discriminate here. We don't have time for all that. He said, because everybody's money is green, ma'am. And I said, okay. And and I like money. And so I walked into his shop. I found stuff, but I can't buy across state lines. I can buy long guns, but I can't buy pistols. So because they're across from there. But I think here in Tennessee, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but if the state is touching my state, I can buy a long gun from that state. If it's not touching, I can't. When I was in Texas, they were like, nope, you can't buy anything here. Okay. You can buy ammo. That was it. And I was like, okay. I was like, what about this tiny corner right here? I think it touches Texas. And he was like, it does not. I was like, he was like, you can redraw the map however you want it. I'm still not going to sell you anything. I'm like, okay. Even though I did fly out there with probably 50 rounds of ammo, because I did fly for the first time with my firearm. And because I'm a prepper at traveling, I got there really super early in the airport, and they were like, all right, just sign this piece of paper, and okay, you got a key to it. See you later. Go on, catch your flight. And I was like, I got 2 hours. So that's in Texas, flying through there, specifically with Southwest. You just have to check with your airline. So that's it was kind of cool. And you were asking about training things. A Girl and a Gun, they have annual training events too. They do 3 guns. They do an annual event for all the ladies from the United States. They come and they do all kinds of things. And they're shooting guns, of course. You don't have to bring your own. Ammo is usually supplied as well as the guns. But it's kind of great to be going into a bunch of women that love the same sport as you do, that has not always been a women's sport. Yeah. And also learning something different that you just didn't know beforehand. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of cool. And sometimes it can be a little intimidating because, you know, Sally Joe over here um, can shoot 1,000 yards and hit her target dead center, and I can shoot 1,000 yards and I'm a little up to the top and to the left, you know. But and I'm like, I know I can shoot better than that, but
Yeah.
just different
Yeah.
things like that.
Yep. That just comes with training.
It does. Let's see. Yep. Well, there's one of my co-teachers out there.
Barbara?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's backing me up. Thanks,
Yes.
Barb. Let's see. And
I
so
think
you do prepping, correct? Or
I
vegetables and
do a
little
lot of stuff.
everything?
My channel is like I call it a mosh posh. I do prepping, gardening, budgeting, recipes,
Okay.
2A.
Yes. I've thought about doing a channel, but then I was like, I just don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, maybe one day everything will even out and I will have time.
Yeah. I just like sharing knowledge.
Yes.
That's the reason I come on here sometimes to find out things. And also, if I have something I feel like I can share that's beneficial to others, I like to share that. And like when I started having people asking me 2A questions, I'm like, listen, I mean, I'm still a baby in the space. What I will do is I will try to see if I can reach out to someone and have someone come on and have a conversation, and then you can ask all the
Yeah.
questions.
Send me your questions. I know I got a couple of follow invites here just recently.
Yes, I saw Kaba say it. Kaba's in Chicago, and
Okay.
he puts together a lot of things there. I'm not. I don't know if it's necessarily Chicago. I know he's in Illinois,
Okay.
so I'm not even sure if it's necessary Chicago. Kaba, let me know. But I
Okay.
do know he's in Illinois. And actually, when you were talking about like the simulation
Yes.
situation, I think he put together something like that last year at one of his events, and they
Oh,
had to clear a building. And I was like, that's pretty dang cool. And I
yeah.
think they did it with night vision, if I'm not mistaken.
I have at the
Oh, he
Glock
is in
store,
Chicago.
I've shot the 270 in the dark. And
Mm.
that it was not easy. And that at the time you had to use I guess it was a 43X that
Mm.
Lenny had out there. And I was like, I hate this gun because it kept clicking. It just kept pinching my finger. And I was like, I don't
No.
like this. And
Mhm.
then I did a low light shoot there with a flashlight because I never really thought about, you know, shooting with a flashlight on my gun. I mean, that's just extra accessory and extra weight as far as I'm concerned. I don't need help with
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And then I also start to think about if I have a flashlight and I'm shooting with it on, they can see me. The same thing with a laser, they can see me. Because when I first started shooting, I was using a laser and
Mhm.
it was red or green. And then I went to a dark place to go and got hit every single time. And I was like, how are y'all
Mhm.
seeing me? And they were like, your laser gives you away. And I was like, duh. You know, it's now over in a box just collecting dust because I don't want anybody to see me if I'm hiding.
Yes. Yes.
You know.
I'm seeing by the silverback. He said he has to go back to work.
Okay.
'Cause I know there's people listening in for work. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope all the questions that you had were answered. And if you reached out to follow Tennessee Goddess on Instagram and you have questions that you think about later, DM her and ask your
Yes.
question. You know, and there's a lot of for me, I'm comfortable training either male or female. Long as there's no reason for me to be uncomfortable.
That's right.
um, so my instruction originally was with one of the males in the community, and I've actually met up with more than one for instruction. Because when I was having my mental blocks of my own about my carry. I have been told I'm a perfectionist when I'm shooting. So I wanted my grouping to be tighter on my carry than it was. I with my full size pistols, it's great. And with this one, it wasn't as much, and I didn't like that. So I met up with one of the instructors in the community. He was like, "I'll meet with you and see what you're going through." And so he met with me, and I shoot it, and he just looks at me and like gives me this look, and he's like, "You're just a perfectionist. You're fine. Like, why? Why am I here?"
Yeah, because we all want to hit that bullseye because that's what we've always heard: bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. But
Like,
I had to get over that myself because I'm like, if my groupings are this big, I'm doing good. And if I go through and I shoot the paper and it's a complete circle in the middle, I've done some range art there that I normally wouldn't have done. Now, you might have a few flyers here and there, but you know what? It's still, as long as it stayed in the black, it still hit. It did something. Even if it's enough to have maim them enough for you to get away.
Yes.
And that's
what he was like. He's like, "You're gonna hit your target." Like, so yes. I don't know what's happening right now. He might still be here. He was here earlier in the chat. It was Roblox.
Well, my sister aims for the chest, but she always hits where the crotch is. And she's like, "I don't know why I aim for it. And then when I shoot, it always go down." And I was like, "I don't either." And then I watch her shoot and it's facing that way, but then I see her hand dip every single time. So we've got to fix that. And so after we worked a little bit, she was like, "This is the best shooting I've done in ever." And I was like, good, because she got her first firearm for Christmas and went to a local range, and they basically was like, "Here's the safety rules. We'll show you how to use it, and that's about it. You'll have to take a class for that." And so there's ranges around here. We don't have range safety officers on them.
Really?
Yeah. We have a lot of those that there's no RSOs here. So you're just kind of like fly by the seat of your pants and then you RSO. But when I'm on the range, and I can speak for Barbara too, that when we're out there, we're watching everybody else to make sure that we're all safe and we're leaving with the same amount of holes we walked in there with. Don't want any extras.
Facts. I am watching, especially if I see where it's I think someone is instructing. I'm like, I listen. I'm like, I want to see if this person really knows what they're talking about, or if they're just somebody who has a gun and then they're trying to tell somebody else how to use a gun.
Yes. I'm like, definitely. Those are I look and listen. If I see somebody down here joking around and having giggling and pew 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 and making noise and sound effects, I'm like, hey, this is not the place for that. This is not all fun and games, because you can hurt somebody and accidentally hurt somebody. So, and if they continue, then I'm just packing up and leaving, because that ruins my range time. I can, good time with having a friend. Look what I did. Look what I did. Or playing one of my favorites, Who Sank Your Battleship, which is a target with battleships on one side, and then on the front side, it's just a black with black sheet. And that's fun too, but it's a different kind of fun and not distracting everybody else around me. So those are things to keep in mind.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for coming on and chatting with us today.
Sure, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Really good, because I took some things. I've been taking notes. Like, I'll look down real quick and start writing.
I noticed. So I was like, okay, she's taking notes.
I was.
Yeah,
because like I said, I'm still, learning in the space, and like even with the content that I put out in regards to firearms, it's from my personal perspective of what I've taken away from whatever, like with the training, things that I notice when I'm at the range, things that I notice with myself when I haven't been to the range for a little while, like getting back a little comfortable with the weight of that firearm in my hand and things like that. Like it until you get to the point where you train with it a lot, if you take gaps in the training or getting to the range, you're just, practicing, it's not going to be as good as it was when you were there months ago.
That is true. I had a wrist injury and I'm predominantly right-handed. So I had surgery on my right hand. And then
Mm-hmm.
after that surgery, I couldn't shoot very well.
Mm-hmm.
And not even a year later, I ended up with trigger finger. So I could not pull the trigger. It would just
Mm-hmm.
get unlocked before it got there. And I was like, I'm gonna have to do something different because I was in a cast for a week or two. And I was like, so what am I going to do if something happens? So
Mm-hmm.
now I've gotten to the place that when I'm at the range before I leave, I shoot with my non-dominant hand
Mm-hmm.
too to make sure that I can at least hit something or enough to scare somebody off if that's what I have to
Mm-hmm.
do. Um, or just work through the pain and just deal with it. But of course, now I've gotten all my injections and my surgeries. I'm good.
Yeah.
But I still do that practice with the left hand,
Yeah.
um, and try to make sure that I can do those things. So, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to shoot, be able to try to shoot with both.
I do. I
Yeah,
was just thinking
I
I
have
do.
seen you do that. Yes.
I
I was
will
like, she
shoot with
doesn't
my
know.
I'm always I just it's just my brain just be working like that. I'm always trying to see like and I won't do it if I'm not comfortable. I've even shot with just one hand and
Yeah,
not I mean use it's still in a safe way, but just if I don't feel comfortable with it, if I feel like if the weight of the firearm is just too much, I'm not going to try it.
yeah.
Um but I will because you just don't you try to think about situations that will be different. Every
Right. Just,
situation
you
is
never
just
know. We
yeah.
did a drill like that with our ladies. We had, I think it was Valentine's Day. We had conversation heart targets,
Hmm.
and I would yell out. I was the range master that, and I was like, left hand, two shots in target with whatever. If it said be mine, and they would have to do one handed,
Hmm.
or and so many were like, it's moving my hand all over the place. And we're like, then that lets you know what you need to work on,
Yep.
that
Yeah.
that's what you need to practice on, steadying that hand,
Yeah.
because you just never know. If you're in the fight, you could lose the dominant hand and then you've got this one.
Yep.
And then I like to call it merry-go-round, or reversal of guns, where you lay them down on the table and you move to the right. And you pick up somebody else's gun and try to shoot that. But we only do it with our group of ladies, not people we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and because if you drop a gun, you got to be able to operate it.
Hmm.
If this person's down and you've run out of ammo and they still got 12, you got to be able to still get in the fight with that. So that was, and actually some of the ladies found guns that they actually liked.
That see that's the danger right there.
Yeah, it is. We're like, ooh, I like that VP9.
Yeah.
I don't like that VP9 SK, you
Yeah.
know, or,
Yeah.
it just is what it is.
Yeah. Well,
So
thanks again
you're
for
welcome.
hanging out
Thank
with
you.
us. Maybe if more questions come up or whatever, we can do it again at another time, um, and hang out and answer those questions. Yes, Grand Acres. I actually, I don't know how I think because I tend to shoot rifles more with my left because I'm left eye dominant.
Okay.
So when I first started shooting, just quickly, I didn't know that you were supposed to have both eyes open. So I was always closing one, which is my right eye, because I'm left eye dominant. And then I was watching someone, they were like, "You're actually supposed to shoot with both eyes open." I was like, "What?" So now I'm trying to like train myself to do that, but it's a habit that I usually close that eye. So
And it's the same. When with NRA, they had us to do one eye,
hmm.
because you're looking for your dominant eye and then you're supposed to
Hmm.
close the other.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much what we've done. But
Hmm.
now, because there is the optics, the red dot, the green dot that are coming out, then you can't use one eye with those. You have to keep your eye open with those, both of them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So learning how to do that, and that's hard to transition over.
It is.
It's
I
very
mean,
hard
I've
to
gotten,
transition.
but it's not a habit. I have to think about it and make myself do it. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And then it gets easier and easier. And because as I explained to someone this weekend, it was like, you're not going to see something happening and they're coming toward you and you hold on a second, I need to get in the weaver stance. Okay, I've got this. I'm going to get my arms straight out, and I'm
yeah,
in this, and then push out. And No.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. When you're in the moment, you're going to do what you have to do.
100%.
You know, yeah, because I did have a student this weekend that somebody taught her how to shoot, and she was told to put a leg out and lean back. I was like, forward? And she was like, yeah. And I said, you're not hitting anything, and we're only at 5 yards. And she was like, what? I was like, you're not hitting anything. Let's fix that stance. And once she started leaning into it and had her feet right, but I was like, the foot was like this, and she's leaned way back. And I'm like, you're hitting up at the baffles in the ceiling. You're not. She was like, oh, I had no idea. They taught me wrong.
And that's why it's important to get a certified instructor.
Yes. Break the bad habit.
That's right.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. And I hope you guys enjoyed the live. I saw a lot of comments that they did. So that's great. A lot of people took notes. That is awesome. So I hope everybody has a great night. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.